Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the staggering story of Alistair Urquhart, a Scottish soldier whose journey of survival in World War II is honestly almost impossible to believe. And he kept it a secret for over 60 years. So in the next few minutes, we're not just going to look at what he went through, but the really powerful reason he finally decided to break that silence.
This quote right here from Urquhart when he was 89 years old, it just gets right to the heart of it all. This isn't simply a story about survival, it's an indictment. You see, he didn't break his silence to talk about how lucky he was. No, he did it to channel a lifetime of anger into one final crucial mission, to set the record straight.
I mean, just look at this list. The sequence of events is just mind-boggling. First, he's captured in Singapore. Then he's enslaved on the infamous Death Railway. He somehow survives a torpedoed prison ship, gets cast adrift completely alone for 5 days, and then, as if that's not enough, as a prisoner in Japan, he's hit by the shockwave from the Nagasaki atomic bomb. It's a journey into hell and back, and then back into hell again.
So, the big question is, why now? After more than half a century of silence, why did he choose to relive these just unimaginable torments?
Well, for decades, Urquhart, like a lot of former POWs, lived by this unspoken code. He just didn't want to upset his wife and his family with all the horrific details. His nightmares were so violent that he often had to sleep in a chair because he was terrified of lashing out and hurting his wife in his sleep. But after she passed away, one particular thing he saw just lit a fire under him.
He was watching a TV documentary, and he saw a Japanese engineer revisit the railway and deny everything. Deny the suffering, deny the deaths. For Urquhart, this was an unbearable lie. He said it was the same as Holocaust denial. And right then and there, his private pain became a public duty. He had to tell the truth.
To really get the full weight of his ordeal, you have to understand the life that was ripped away from him. You have to see his world before the war.
Before all this, Alistair Urquhart was just the picture of youthful energy. He was super fit, loved swimming, was a scout, and by his own account, he never missed a chance to go dancing at Aberdeen's famous beach ballroom. His life was pretty simple: work, sports, and dancing. And then, at 20 years old, a single envelope just changed everything. Conscripted into the Forgotten Highlanders, he was suddenly on a path he never chose, heading straight into a conflict he couldn't possibly imagine.
After Singapore fell, Urquhart and thousands of other men just vanished into the jungle. Their destination was a project of almost impossible scale and cruelty.
The Death Railway wasn't some kind of tragic miscalculation. British engineers had already looked at the route and basically said, technically, maybe, but the human cost would be absolutely catastrophic. The Japanese Imperial Army needed a supply line to Burma, and they decided that cost would be paid by Allied prisoners of war and Asian laborers.
Think about this number for a second. Urquhart spent 750 days, that's more than 2 years, as a slave on this railway. Day in, day out, from before the sun came up to long after it went down, all while facing starvation, rampant disease, and the casual, brutal violence of the guards. And the cost was just staggering. Over 16,000 Allied prisoners, British, Australian, Dutch, American, died building it. The saying was that one man died for every single sleeper laid on that track.
And the tragedy was even bigger than that. It's so important to remember that, alongside the Allied POWs, an estimated 100,000 Asian civilians who were forced into service from all over the region also died in those same horrific conditions.
This quote, it really gets to the psychological damage. Survival wasn't some story about heroic camaraderie. It was about retreating deep inside yourself to get through the endless work, the starvation, the suffering. Urquhart explains that each man basically became an island, totally focused on just one thing, making it through the next hour, the next day. The only mantra was, survive this day.
Now, you'd think that surviving the Death Railway would be the end of the story, right? For Alistair Urquhart, it was just the prelude to an even more surreal and terrifying chapter.
So, after the railway, the Japanese crammed him and hundreds of other POWs onto what they called a hell ship. For 6 days, they were sealed in a steel cargo hold. No water.
Then, an American submarine, which had no idea prisoners were on board, torpedoed the ship. It went down in just 15 minutes, but the sea rushing in actually washed Urquhart out of the hold. He ended up on a tiny raft, all alone, adrift in the middle of the ocean.
His own words just paint the most unbelievable picture. He said he popped out of that sinking ship like a cork out of a champagne bottle, only to land in a sea that was so thick with oil from the other burning tankers that swimming felt like trying to move through treacle.
After 5 days, he was rescued from the sea by a Japanese whaling ship. But his journey still wasn't over. He was taken to Japan itself, where he would become a witness to one of the most defining moments in all of human history. Just try to imagine this. He's working in a prison camp near the city of Nagasaki. All of a sudden, he hears this tremendous clap of thunder. A moment later, a blast of intensely hot air just knocks him completely off his feet. He had no idea what it was. It was only later that he learned he had survived the literal dawn of the atomic age, feeling the hot breath of the Fat Man bomb from just a few miles away.
His liberation brought this just painfully emotional whiplash. In Hawaii, the Americans treated him and the other survivors like absolute heroes. Hula dancers, celebrations, the whole 9 yards. But when he finally got back to Britain, the docks were cold, they were empty. No band, no fanfare, and no family waiting for him. Just a devastatingly anticlimactic return home.
The war, of course, left permanent scars, both physical and mental. He battled illnesses, the lifelong effects of the beatings, and even cancer that his doctors linked to radiation exposure. But somehow, out of all that unimaginable horror, he forged a new purpose. He vowed to help others. He became a managing director who made workplace safety his absolute priority. And most importantly, he dedicated his final years to visiting schools, making sure the next generation would never ever forget what happened.
So after surviving what really should have been unsurvivable, Alistair Urquhart's final message is this incredible statement of radical hope. His story is a testament not just to what a human being can endure, but why they endure it. And it kind of leaves us with a question, doesn't it? Maybe the true measure of survival isn't what we live through, but the purpose we decide to build from the ruins. Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.